Can you imagine what it must be like to be so void of opinion, so in need of acceptance that you become a kind of personality assimilator? Problematic impersonator. You sound amazing.
Cool. Guys, we roll right into it here, Otto. This is This One Time. Thanks for tuning in. Today, my guest is Otto D. I'm going to butcher your last name, so I'll let you do that. But world-renowned audio producer, engineer, and host and creator of The Recording Artist, found on Amazon Prime. Are you posting on YouTube?
No, it's on, we have our own Roku TV channel.
Roku TV channel, that's what it was.
And it's also, most of the content's available at the website, which is therecordingartist.com.
Which is, we would really encourage people to visit your website and join the subscribers, the membership.
Yeah.
So you can see all the cool behind the scenes access that you give folks. I mean, you give everybody a crash course on what it's like to record in a legit studio and have all that at your fingertips, and you do it in a, I wouldn't say bite-sized, but in a very it's manageable.
It's entertaining and informational.
Yes.
But I think that, you know, I've been doing this for a while. I've been making records for a living since 1989. Wow. So, you know, I've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
And it gets really boring to do the same thing over and over, whatever your job is.
Yeah.
And so with me and making records, it's kind of like, I don't want to make another record unless I really like you as a person, because we're going to spend a lot of time together. Mm-hmm. Or the music is just, and the musicianship is so incredible that it just kind of takes your breath away. Then you're like, yeah, I want to make that record. Yeah. But I don't want to just record because I want to play with a compressor or play with a reverb. That stuff does not fascinate me at all anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think when you bring in the experience of making records and recording recording using the tools being so second nature, what becomes more fun for me, because I'm also an entertainer and a performer, is that I get to perform for the cameras the art of recording a band, which isn't just the running the gear, which happens almost behind the scenes. You don't even see me really running that. Yeah. It's the personalities and managing these creative individuals through a process when they're under the gun and under the spotlight, because they're a little nervous, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
trust me, boys, follow me, you know, and they're afraid not to follow me and not to trust me. And that dynamic creates a really cool energy for the live webcasts that we do, typically weekly. Right now we're monthly as we edit season 2 for TV, but it's a full 2-hour webcast of a song. And then for the techies, I go in the next day and do a 2-hour live mix. And then we post those on the website. Anybody can go to the website without being a subscriber and hear the last 80 bands we've recorded for free. And we give all of that music, all those recordings, to the band for free.
That is awesome. Yeah.
We're not attached to it. They can license it to TV and film. In fact, we just helped Paper Foxes and Sugar Beat get their songs licensed to a film, because we got approached by a director and they listened to our catalog, and I said, yeah, go talk to them. They own it. Yeah. We made it for them. It's theirs. And if they can make money on it, you know, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the fun of it. And then of course, taking those 2-hour segments, we don't put that whole bit on TV, because it's the television audience tends to be a little bit different than the live streaming audience.
Yes.
They're really into participating, and they chat with us on our screen, and the band talks back, and there's a real interactive element for the members. And on TV, it's more like, I just want to sit back and be entertained. I don't want to think.
Yeah.
And so I go through those 2-hour sessions and condense them to like a 10-minute to 15-minute path. We also do green screen interviews with the bands when they're here, so we interject that over bits of the episode to keep the pace moving along.
Yeah, you got to keep it moving for the television series.
Yeah, so the episodes represent 3 bands per episode, including some interaction with the cast. We've got a new thing going this season that I'd love to tell you about. It's going to be fun. I brought on, we have our head of A&R all the time, who comes on our big screen TV right during the session, right at the beginning of the session.
That's right.
Because the band doesn't know what song they're going to do. They give us 3 tunes ahead of time, and our members vote on that. So right when we go live at 7 o'clock, she comes on and tells us what song was picked, and the band finds out. I think that's hilarious.
That is. Man.
It adds more pressure. It makes everybody feel a little uncomfortable, but not that uncomfortable because they know the stuff. So it just keeps everybody on their toes, keeps them alive, right? Well, that was the interacting component, but now we have another one. I felt that I wanted the show to have a little bit more of a purpose, or a little bit more of a interaction, I guess, outside of the bands. Yeah. So I brought on a music supervisor who has had a 40-year career in radio, at Major Market Radio, as the head supervisor. Her name is Erin Riley. She lives in Pennsylvania, and she was Billboard's #1 music supervisor one year. She has her big Billboard award. And of course, she has all of her photos on her website of every rock star you've ever known, because they all had to come to the music supervisors to say, play our song.
So real quick, even though I'm in music and everything, but a music supervisor, what is their main role?
Well, at radio, what happens typically, and if you want a really good answer, go to therecordingartist.com and go to the free videos and watch Erin explain what she did as a music supervisor.
Hit pause, do that, come right back.
Because I'm telling you, she tells you exactly. She answers this question. I'm basically going to try to remember what she said for you.
Yeah.
But in that role, they would have a meeting once a week where all the record companies have sent records, and so her and 2 other people would listen to everything that was sent. Then they would bring them to a round table of people that would have input, and they'd decide if any and which songs were going to get added to their playlist. And so it's their job to pick. And sometimes they're over a large market. And sometimes when you're a powerful station in a particular market, people follow you. And so they find that you added a record and they didn't, they might, because they know that you know what you're doing.
Track record.
Yeah. And so I asked her, I said, well, because a lot of times, obviously, you're kind of playing the same things everybody's playing, but everybody wants to be the first one.
Yeah.
I said, is there a record?
We broke this album.
Right.
We broke this
And I said,
single.
is there that record that you felt like you broke?
Yeah.
The one. And she gave me two answers for that. One was they were a rock record, a rock station, not so much a pop station, but Cyndi Lauper's first song, Girls Just Want to Have Fun, was out. And they really liked her attitude, and they thought the record was a smash hit anyway. So they said, well, let's just add it. We'll help that record,
Yeah.
And that was way in the beginning when it was just getting picked up. So she felt like she helped, but not that it was a big deal.
Yeah.
But REM was a band that she said she championed for years, and no one would play them.
Really?
They didn't get it. And she's like, no, this is good. This is good. And she goes, if it weren't for me, they wouldn't have made it. I'm the one who got them on radio.
Oh, shoot.
And so I think it's got to feel good when you can do that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so bringing that back to what we're doing at therecordingartist.com, I feel like we're giving all of these artists this opportunity. We're giving them this content. But then I thought, what if Erin hears it all and gives us her feedback from a radio perspective? And then how we tie it in is she tells me which bands are going to come in the studio by reviewing all the submissions of bands.
Gotcha.
And then we bring these bands into the studio, and when I'm done, she listens to the recordings and critiques them. She picks the best, her favorite from each television episode, because now we're grouping them in 3s.
Yeah.
And that one goes on our website under Erin's Picks. So you get to hear her in-depth analysis of what was cool about it, or what could have been cooler about it.
Yeah.
And that's a really neat new aspect. So she's a established music supervisor. Now she's ours, and she's on the website, and she's involved in the show.
Very cool, man.
Yeah, we're excited about that. And so for our head of A&R, of course, the first year was Courtney Schieber, a local woman in Scottsdale. Got too busy with her own life. So season 2, we brought on Danny Cutler, who is also a program director and on-air personality at KWSS. Now, Danny just moved to the East Coast to Maryland.
Did.
And so I don't know if she'll end up being with us for season 3 when we kick it back up again or not. But anyway, those are all the moving components. We have our head of A&R, we got our music supervisor, we have our crew here that runs the cameras and helps set up, and then we've got all the bands. So
that's a beautiful thing that you have, that you've put together here. Yeah. You can tell your experience just the way you flow. Because what people might not realize is in a studio, you have a couple of heavy hitters in there, right? Obviously, you got the engineer, the guy running the board, which is what you do on the first day, and on day 2, right, is the engineer. I mean, that's the heavy lifting, right, for the second day. The first day, though, you put on your producer hat, and you kind of have to take off the engineer hat and producer hat and come right back. But that producer is putting in the heavy lifting and I was a guest on your show here, which is how we came to know each other. And I remember you kept pushing and pushing on the singer, and as soon as he kind of got fed up with you kind of chiming in and came back, you looked over at me and you said, "Now we're gonna get some magic," because you are kind of pushing a bit. And so has your experience led you to, hey, if we create a little bit of that friction, we'll get a little bit more raw authenticity out of it?
I don't think it's that conscious. I think it's more like I've done this so much, and that my passion is getting the best thing I think I can get, right?
In a 2-hour window.
But even if it's a 2-week window, whatever the project is, you want to get the best you can get, right?
Yes.
So when I hear somebody sing, and I've heard a million singers, and so my ear has been trained and trained and trained. And you hear somebody, and you're like, "Oh, they're good," and then you hear one line that's ridiculously good because of some subtle change in the way they phrased a vowel or did a vibrato in a particular place, and you're like, "Oh, that's, you can do that too." Now I'm going to push you a little harder in some spots where you're being really lazy. I don't say that to them necessarily, but that's the thing I feel immediately. Like, oh, okay, I can see where you can go, and you stay safe, especially on TV, especially when we're doing something in front of people.
Yes.
You're going to stay in your wheelhouse. And so I don't want to embarrass someone or push them to a place where now we fall down because we argue and it doesn't work. That's not my goal.
Yeah.
But I'm experienced enough to recognize how hard I can lean on you to get out of you what I know is in there without it becoming, yes, you can.
That is
Fuck
so
you.
true.
I'm not gonna. That's no point in us getting there.
No.
Now, if you have 2 weeks to make a record, sometimes that is where you have to go to get people to give you the trust that you know what can be done and that you know where they can go, and for them to let you take them there. In this 2-hour window, it's incredible how much people come with me.
Yes. Yeah.
It's incredible. And so it's a lot of fun to watch these things come together.
It's big. You made a good point is the cameras. The cameras are going to make somebody behave in a certain way. Oh, there's cameras on me. This is going to be on Amazon and Roku. Okay, I'm going to, just stay in my little pocket here.
Or I can't get as mad as I want to.
Yeah, that, or I don't want to experiment. I don't want to, let me just do what's kind of tried and tested that I've done before. And you're looking for, no, give me some magic.
Yeah.
Give me some
and you see, as much as they want to stay in a safe space, they also don't want to be seen as saying, no, I'm not going to try that, Otto.
That's true. Right,
So in a real environment that's, or like I say, a 2-week project where we're not webcasting it live, I'll get much more resistance from the artist because they're like, no, I don't want to. Because there's no reason to follow me until they trust in my vision. Yeah. But when they're on camera to then not follow me, it's like, oh, you're not going to follow me?
Yeah.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah,
I don't have to say it. It's kind of like I've been doing this for 40 years. I have gold and platinum records everywhere, and you're not even going to try that note? Okay, don't.
Yeah.
That's fine. So what's funny is people tend to follow me more, which I was like, fascinating. I should have put all my sessions on camera back in the day. They do what I tell them. They're afraid not to.
Yeah, because now you're in the moment, and then you don't want to be seen as like, well, why didn't you try it? Like you're on his show.
Yeah, they didn't want to look bad, and so it's. I find that's one of the coolest things for me is that I know they're coming with me, and I know I'm responsible for that, and I always make them land in a great place, but I don't have to fight so hard to get them to take flight. You know?
Yeah, it was very welcoming, what you have going on here.
Yeah.
Coming in, you have very good personality, very good attitude, and your love and passion for music and creativity, I mean, it shines. So it's definitely a very, very fun, enjoyable to watch and be a part of. I mean, being a part of this I've never done anything like this. Yeah. So I encourage every band, like reach out to your agents, producers, like do what you can to be a part of this. Yeah,
come on the show. I mean, we just had a band drive out from Long Island about 2 weeks ago. Right now we're doing one a month. We've got a band coming from Washington, D.C. In September. So we're still looking for our October band. We're still looking for our November band. Just like I say, we're just doing one a month while we're editing season 2 for TV.
Yeah.
We've got a couple bands out of Denver that have expressed interest in being on the show. So, come from anywhere if you can get here. We're a little show. We're not paying to fly anybody in.
Yeah.
But if you can get here, I'll have a drum set for you and some amps. So.
There you go. But the experience, even for us, we had a one-on-one masterclass on a tambourine from you, which I was like, oh, tambourine. Yeah, cool. Like, just grab it. We'll just shake it. And, we gave it to our drummer and he was kind of like, I'm like, well, hold on. You're the drummer. Like, shouldn't you? And he had no idea where to go with it.
Yeah.
And we proceeded to get like a 8 to 9 minute masterclass from you on this is how you want to hold it. This is where you want to hit it. And I was like, I went the next day. I was at my work at Guitar Center. I'm just like looking at tambourines. I was like, I need a tambourine now.
They looked all different, didn't they?
Yeah, they really did.
That's funny that you say that because there are two things I learned early on in the studio that everybody thinks are easy. So they say, we'll just do this. And they're both very difficult. And that's playing tambourine right and well so that it works on the track and singing oohs. Oof. Everybody thinks, we'll just sing a bunch of oohs. I'm like, oh, no, don't do that. You guys are not good enough to even think of that. Can we not do oohs? So that's one. But the tambourine thing is funny because I have then, even with oohs, I guess, but on a lot of records that I was producing, I played the tambourine. I'm like, don't worry, I'll have a tambourine on there. I'll do this, I'll do that. And I've played tambourine on a lot of records because once you know what you're doing and how to manipulate it, you're not just banging it, then, you can do it. And if you haven't played with the tambourine with that focus of control, it's like any other instrument. Play violin without great articulation and you're just going to squeak a lot. Yeah. And some players can go, oh, well, I squeaked a couple notes. That's part of violin. It's like, no, not really. It's part of average violin.
Yeah, right.
But anybody, when they get really good at that technical part of what they play, it's breathtaking to watch them play their instrument.
Yeah, because you recognize there's so much nuance, angle, attack, like all of that when they say tone is in the fingers, it really is in the fingers when it comes to just anything, really. Yeah. It's all in how you manipulate it.
Yeah, and people who don't understand that can't imagine it's true. They think it's like a story.
They're like, no, I just need this new tool. This new tool will give me exactly what I need. This new toy, this new compressor, this new rack piece. Like, no.
And the measure is while they're sitting there thinking that, give that instrument to somebody else and now watch them play it. Yeah. And you're like, it can do that? Yeah, it can.
Dude, we used to have a guitarist for the Phoenix Orchestra or one of the, I forget which one it was. He was very prestigious.
Right.
This little Asian man would come in and he would grab the mini Squier Stratocaster in pink, sit right at the front of the store and play the craziest scales and melodic, sounding guitar sounds, and everybody would just do triple takes. Or like, is he really playing a pink little guitar? He's like, yeah, and it sounds great because he's played this instrument for so many hours.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's the same thing. I think for brass players, the tone we talk about, it's in the fingers, it's in the lips, it's in how you play the horn, and I learned that again really early. I was a kid in grade school playing trumpet. And I was complaining. We had a jazz teacher, and he wrote a jazz version of Jingle Bells for us, for the band. And I was complaining about in practice that my valve was sticking a little bit, and that's why I was not doing well. So he took my trumpet from me, and he played Flight of the Bumblebee on it.
Oh, man.
And he gave it back, and he goes, yeah, it is sticking a little. And I was like, but it did that. So I don't think it's sticking too much for me to play my half notes and whole notes here in Jingle Bells,
Yeah.
It was just funny to watch because it was like, my horn can do that. And that really makes you recognize that it's all about you. Yeah. And I learned that in the studio. I was at a recording studio in the early 80s where I had been for 5 years. And I thought, this place is holding me back. I've been an engineer for 5 years. Yeah. And I need better gear and I need better rooms and I need. And so about that time, the owner, it was near Nashville. So the owner brought up all the top guys, session guys, and top engineers and producers, Billy Sherrill, everybody, to cut some songs for his publishing company. In my studios, the ones I call mine, the one I worked in, on my console, And they might have brought a couple more microphones. Yeah. And they let us come in, and everybody got to come in for a few minutes and listen and leave. And I swear to God, I'd never seen anything like, number one, session players playing a record as opposed to some local band. That was my first vision of that, experience of that. Yeah. But I walked out, maybe not even being aware of how much of it was the players. I walked out going, that sounded like a record. As soon as they hit the first beat, it sounded like a record. That happened in my room on my gear. So it's not holding me back.
Yeah.
It's me.
It's you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was more than just me. It was me and all of them. Everybody involved raised it to that level. But at my beginning point, at least I learned that valuable lesson that the gear wasn't the problem. You know,
It's the know-how.
yeah, and people say you have to train your ears, and that's the absolute truth. You can't do something you can't hear.
There's no shortcut for that.
No, you just have to listen.
You literally have to put in the hours.
Yeah, you really have to listen, and it helps when someone can show you the focus and the difference. For example, when drummers are playing and they think they're really good, I've dealt with drummers who think they're really, really good, and by my standard of what I would need in a session, they're really, really bad. And they're like, yeah, but I can play all these different beats. And I'm saying, yeah, out of time.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, they're in time. And it's like, well, you and I have a different definition of what time is.
How is that possible? But
Exactly.
I get it,
So then I'll say, okay, well, let's record you for a second. And you put a click track up, which they don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
But it's a metronome that shows time. And then you stop, and with this tool that is Pro Tools, where you get a digital or visual representation of each sound, you can see how closely it landed near the click, which is where on the beat, which is where they're supposed to play. Kick drum, snare drum, kick drum. And you can see. So to show them, here's what a good drummer looks like, and it's all right on the beat. Now they have all these beats they can play, but they always play them in time, whereas you're running around like a drunken sailor, heading toward the click track and crossing, and heading back toward the click track and crossing. And so, you're playing the beat, and you play it from start to end. You end it in the right amount of time, so you're playing it in the time allotted.
Yeah.
But you're not playing it in time, you know. And so to show them visually that if I scooch this over a little, now do you hear the difference? Like, oh my gosh, I can hear it. Because if you can't hear it, you can't do it.
Exactly.
And I think that tool really helps people go, oh, I wasn't listening that close. I didn't know what you meant. Well, now you do. Now listen that close. And it's the same thing with bending guitar strings. Everybody can bend a string. But the pace of the beginning spot and the ending spot of the bend, whether you go fast or go slow or change the pace at which you're going, has a completely different emotional component.
Yeah.
And somebody who's not paying attention is just going to bend it, and it's just going to sound wrong for the moment. That's not the way that should have been. So it's once you start to hear that, you know, it makes a big difference. In fact, I have told people that I put my guitar down for, 15 years at one point and just made records with people. And when I picked it back up, because I was going to make my own record, I was a better guitar player.
Yeah.
And I thought, how is this possible? I'm playing lead lines that are expressive and sound right. It's because in my head, now I knew what I wanted to hear, and I made my fingers make the sound I wanted.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I was just playing what I thought I wanted to play and not listening like that.
That's a part of visualization. Is in your mind, you were visualizing what you wanted it to be, and that helps as well. So visualizing where you want to be, what you want to accomplish, what you want it to sound like. Because again, that's part of being able to see it. So if you can't even see it, then you're never going to nail it. So if you can envision it, then it's easier to be able to replicate it as well. Otherwise, other than just saying, well, I'll just never do it. I can't do it.
That's the truth, man. That's totally the truth.
Dude. So what was your first venture into like music where you were like, I really love music and I'm going to make it a career?
Playing in bands, I played in a trumpet in grade school. I'd listened to records and loved records, but I didn't equate that to it being something you could do.
Yeah.
And then I think I was probably 16 when my best friend started a band. And I wasn't invited because I didn't have a guitar, right? So I'm like, I was kind of mad at him that he started a band without me. It's like, well, you can be in it. You just need to get a guitar. So I did, actually for Christmas. And then my first gig with him, they were playing at a retreat, like an all-girls Christian retreat for the weekend. It was going to end with a little concert by his little band, right? Because the parents and everybody knew everybody, and it's all just a neighborhood thing.
Yeah.
And so he asked me if I wanted to be in that band and play that show. So I had like a week to learn their songs. And a bunch of cover songs like Led Zeppelin, whatever, just stuff of the day.
Gotcha.
And so the funny thing was they didn't want the girls because the band needed to practice in the little building where they're going to play out here at this retreat space in the woods.
Yeah.
And so they decided they didn't want the guys to show up in the middle of it all and ruin the surprise. So they wanted them to stay the whole weekend as participants in this thing so the girls wouldn't. I'm like, really? Fine. So the four of us got to spend the weekend at this weekend retreat, all-girl retreat.
Yeah.
It's just so we could be the band and it wouldn't be a surprise, right? So we got to sneak off at certain times when they were doing things to rehearse over there in the space. And so here's how funny the rehearsal was. The guy, my buddy says, we're going to play Communication Breakdown by Led Zeppelin. A-D-A. And I'm like, what do you mean A-D-A? I don't know what that means. He goes, those are the chords. Chords? What are chords? I mean, I just got a guitar. He had to tune it for me.
Oh, shit.
So he says, okay, you just play lead. Okay, great. In other words, I had to memorize on every song and a few rehearsals which frets I could play on which strings and which songs and which ones were bad.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I'm sure it was the worst thing anyone ever heard.
Oh my God.
But that was my introduction to it. And then playing for them the night that we played or the afternoon we played our 6 songs or whatever. It was funny because I'd play a high note and a couple girls would scream or something. And then you go, you're kidding. And you do it again. And they would again, something about, wow, the high note thing,
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember going home, telling my little brother, I know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Ooh.
And it was that performing on stage thing.
Yeah.
Even on that little environment. Oh man, that sucked me in. I started bands, played in bands. 6 guys in a van driving all over the Midwest for splitting $20 after the end of the gig,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For years and years and years. And recently, the last half a dozen years, I've been on stage a bunch again, and can't believe I ever quit performing. It's just there's nothing more fun.
Was there a moment where you were performing and you said to yourself, you're like, I'm done performing? Like,
no.
So when you took your breaks, it was outside of your.
Yeah, I think, for example, I grew up in Illinois, so I was about 23 when I left town, 22, 23. And so I was in bands until then. Well, when I left, I went to teach at a recording school. And I didn't know anyone there in terms of putting a band together.
Yeah.
And now I had a full-time job in a different place. And I really got into recording. And as I started to do that, I discovered that most everybody was a better musician than me in terms of the people I was running into. They'd spent more time getting more serious. And I thought, wow, I'll let them play on my songs. So I would write songs, but let everybody else play. So that's really when I put my guitar down. And so there was no band to go play. There was no reason to go play. I was really getting that live element vicariously through all of the people I was working with. And so really, I just started producing records and until somebody asked me to play, who knew I was a musician.
Gotcha.
And this would have been after about 15 years. I had a friend here in Arizona who had a stage every year at the state fair that she booked for 2 hours. She was a talent agent. And she needed someone to take like 15 minutes at the end of one of the days. And would you do it? I'm like, seriously? I haven't played a guitar forever, but she'd heard a record I had done.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll do it. I just took the opportunity. So I called some friends, session guys, and I said, here, I sent them some songs. I said, learn them, we'll rehearse. Well, we could never get together to rehearse. So I rehearsed with the drummer, and I rehearsed with the background singers, and I rehearsed with the keyboard player. And then we all showed up on stage, and we played the 2 songs, for the first time ever that they'd ever been played in front of 100 people at the state fair, walking by. But I can tell you that day, it was kind of like, oh, it feels good to be back on planet Earth. To me, there's something so at home on stage. There's no place I've ever felt more home than on stage.
Well, you're really in the moment at that point, where versus when you're in the studio, you're preparing for the moment when everybody else gets to experience it. But when you're on stage, you're literally there living it, and then you get to be done with it too. I've performed it, washed my hands. We had a great time. I gave you the best performance I could here at the moment. Versus when you're recording, it's the art piece where it's like it's never done, right?
Yeah, I think there's an aspect that's true there. But in addition to that, for me, I remember even as a young man, 20, 21 years old, when we would travel town to town, I would just want to sit on the stage at the venue until it was time to play.
Really?
I didn't want to go wander around because everywhere you went was just someplace you didn't know or didn't want to be or didn't understand. And yet the stage, I just want to play. I'll just wait right here. I feel better here. I'd rather sleep on the stage and just wait till we get back to play and then get in the van and go to the next place and find the next stage. So to me, the stage really did feel like home. And walking on stage in a show there's just nothing like that.
Yeah.
And what's funny is now, this show we do is a stage in a way.
Yeah.
But from a performance standpoint, I'm involved in 3 different shows right now. I'd love to play my music out live, but I can get about 30 people at $10 a head, so I can't even pay the band. I'm out of pocket every time I do a show, so that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
But I am involved in a couple cover shows or tribute shows, if you want to call it that. And one that's costumed is a Brooks and Dunn tribute show, which I do very occasionally.
Yeah.
And in fact, on Friday, I'm flying to Nashville to play at this country club, and then flying back on Saturday. And they're paying me a crap load of money to glue a beard on and go sing Brooks and Dunn songs. And there'll be a couple thousand people there.
Yeah.
And it's a blast. It's so much fun to perform on stage, especially get paid for it.
Heck yeah. People lose sight of that to keep it fun.
Yeah.
Everything this day and age needs to be monetized, and you should be maximizing it.
Right.
And it's like, well, I get it, but what happened to really taking joy and having fun?
Yeah.
Is it still fun? Okay, then there's no argument there for me.
Yeah.
You got to keep it fun, because otherwise it'll just feel like another job.
Right.
It'll feel something that's dragging.
Because what people need to understand is you're spending your time. And another way to put that is you're spending your life. Yeah. And I often ask people, what did you buy today with your life? Well, because if you watched a rerun again that you've already seen, if you watched that movie you've watched 4 times, that's what you bought. Because you don't get to spend today again, and you're just going to buy what you already had again. Now, and that's just a simplification of it, but I feel very responsible, or very, I try to be very economic with my time. There's nothing more valuable to me than the time I have to spend. I'll give you money, but to give you minutes is far harder or more important. If I'm giving you my time, I'm giving you something.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the older we get, we definitely realize that.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Better hurry up.
Exactly. You want what, how much of me, when, where? Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I had a friend ask me to review like 3 hours of content they created just make notes and give them feedback. I'm like, sorry, I love you, but I don't have 3 hours to do that for you. Yeah. It's your thing. Make it. Yeah. I just don't have that kind of time to just do.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we were talking about before we got going what you have, your editing, and editing, people don't realize that, because people will be like, oh, they're just a YouTuber or a TikToker or something like that that's creating online content. When you're editing stuff like that takes an ungodly amount of time. I have video from my Grand Canyon hike last September that I still haven't got around to editing because it's just so time consuming. Yeah. And it just sits there, and I'm just like, people just don't realize what it takes to be to have a show, to have an online presence like that where you're actively creating and editing something together. Yeah. It's very time consuming.
It really is. Do you have a favorite editing platform?
No, just whatever's free. I've been using VideoPad. That's what I use. Okay. It's just free. Cool. But yeah, I mean, what do you use? Like,
I use DaVinci Resolve, and I started because it was free. Yeah. Same thing. And then it's only a few $100s to buy the thing, and then you have the full blown version. But I just fell in love with it. Use it for everything I do.
Really? I'll have to look into it then.
That's pretty cool.
Because the one I have is I would imagine it's a little limited, but I don't do anything crazy like you either. Right. I mean, the most of what I'm doing is I use it for the podcast, which is literally here's a clean intro, here's a clean outro, and everything else in between is pretty much laid as is. It's
for me to do the 30-minute television show, I probably spend 80 hours editing an episode. I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah, but it's you can tell it's quality. The passion is there. Yeah. Your members and your subscribers are very adamant to tune in every week and give you their feedback, because that's one thing that you do. You acknowledge them and when they're bringing something to you, and you take advice as well, and that's gotta feel good for somebody to be like, I gave Otto a suggestion and he took it. Yeah. And now I had a hand in this song.
Yeah, it's cool because when bands let us know that they're actually releasing those records, we turn around and let our members know, hey, this record you helped make is coming out. Now go spin it on Spotify. Yeah. Go check it out. Go to their website and buy the content, because they've never made records before. And as members of this website, they're all kind of helping make records. And so they're involved, intimately involved. And I've had a number of members who have said, I never would have listened to that kind of music, but now that I've watched that record be put together, I want to buy it.
Yes.
They understand the process and the people, and that completely changes what they're hearing.
Yeah, I'm the same when it comes to like genres of music that I wouldn't otherwise listen to. If I see it live, I have a greater appreciation for it, because you're watching it being produced by another human, right in front of you. When you see it being recorded, that's another level, because then you see the mind, you see the cogs, kind of spinning, and it gives you a different window into that, so you can better understand and be like, well, maybe I'm still not the biggest fan of that music, but you know what? I have a different appreciation for the people that are making it and that genre. And if anything, maybe just this band in general. You're familiar with Snailmate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly.
That's my main one I always bring up. I would never listen to that, go out of my way, before I saw them live.
Right.
You see them live, another just level of respect. It's just two guys coming out here making some crazy music and having fun. Yeah. Again, having fun.
They are. And really, when it comes to entertainment content, you want to have fun. People typically are there to be entertained or to have fun. Yeah. They want to participate in something that's fun. It's a big, big part of it.
It's a huge part. Everybody's trying to escape.
Yeah.
They're trying to escape their own daily lives, and it's like...
they got enough going on. Well, that's how I try to explain to bands when we do the television show. We do the live webcast, and it's like, we have 2 hours to cut this record. And, sometimes people are nervous, sometimes they aren't. And I tell them, look, if we don't get the record done, it doesn't really matter, because that's not the part people are going to like. If you guys are great and you nail this in 10 minutes, we just ruin the whole show. Yeah. Because it's really about personality and process. That's what they like. They want to get to know you. They want to see you struggle. They want to see you achieve. They want to see you win. And then they want to cheer with you in the end. They want to buy into your experience and have you take them someplace. So the show is more about the conversations in between and the things that are funny and the things that were a little weird. Or I had a guitar player, you'll see in episode 1, it should be out shortly for season 2. He was a great guitar player. He played a great first pass. And I'm excited because I can tell as a technician, he's really good. So I'm thinking, I can really push him around. But what I didn't know is, no, he doesn't want to be pushed around. Oh. And so I'm giving him all these props. Hey, man, you're really great. It's going to be fun. I can't wait till we get to the guitar part. So we come back to the guitar solo. And I'm like, okay, cool. I want you to play the guitar solos. He goes, I already played them. So I know you did. I want you to play them again. I already played them. What? I don't need to play them. I said, no, I know you already played them. And so we got that. So let's play them again. And we got into this conversation live online where he was like, he goes, I don't like being told to do it again. And I was like, told? I'm inviting you to play guitar.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm inviting you to play again. You mean to tell me that with everything you do, do you play this the same every night? He goes, no, I play it different every night. So you've already got 40 solos to the song. Play me another solo. Shut up. And I turned around and I hit record, And he played a bunch of them, and they were great. And then he went through this energetic experience where he felt like he was being put out because he was trying to be the cool him, and I was pushing him out of his comfort level, and he wasn't comfortable. But once I pushed him over anyway, then got something great out of him, then he felt bad that he was such a stick in the mud. So then he was like, man, that was great. I'm really glad you had me. And he was apologizing, and it's like, shut up. This is what we do. We make something great. We're just trying to make something great. Yeah. And if I tell you it's great, I don't want anything else. I'm the final word. I'm the guy in charge. I'm the producer. That is my fault and my responsibility to make this thing the best I can make it. And in this case, in the time frame we have. Yeah. So that was the most interesting one where a fan was watching in New York who knew the band and had never seen the show. And he was laughing because he assumed I would have a problem with this guy. And so then when he started to see it happen, he was like, oh no, I knew this was going to happen. And then when he saw it go okay and everything go down, he was like, wow, he handled the personalities, he handled the band, he handled the arrangement, he handled it. He was just blown away. The guy calls me afterwards. I'd never met him. And we had a 30-minute conversation. He convinced me to fly out to New York to meet with him because he had some ideas he wanted to talk about. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go. In fact, that was a year ago. Yeah. And at the end of this month, we're going back to New York again. He's throwing a big bash, big party. Very cool. We're just going to go out and hang out. That band is playing that party.
Oh, nice.
So it's funny the relationships you build, with people. But the show is really draws people in who are intellectual or into process. It's our membership audience is primarily professional individuals.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I remember you mentioned that the last time.
I thought it'd be a bunch of kids who like music, and it's like, no, that's a little bit more of the television audience. People just want to watch music or be entertained by a musical experience. But these guys who are the members who are there all the time, they're accountants, they own their own business. This one gentleman is a retired stockbroker. Another guy owns his own company that builds drones, and it's just they're involved. They can't believe that a bunch of musicians can come in a room, not know what they're going to do, and in 2 hours, it always sounds like a record. So they're just impressed with that process, I think. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, too, all of us, built in, we prejudge everyone we meet. When we see somebody, it's like, okay, I know 10 people in my life that look like you, so I know who you are. I know what you're like. There's some sort of prejudge, right?
Yeah.
So let me take a real conservative person who's a professional, successful, who's never been in the arts, but they like music. And they see some of the crazy guys in the arts world that come in here.
Yeah.
And oh, this guy's a loser, or this guy can't be any good, and then you hear them discuss intellectually the purpose of where the song came from and why it matters to them and why they're defending their role when I'm trying to modify it or something. And you're like, oh my God, I had no idea that you could be this deep in this process. So they're fascinated by that education and by that process and by the personalities. That's really what it's all about. The music is kind of like just a cool little wafer we serve that on.
Exactly, because music, there's three things in culture I think that can bridge just about any gap. And it's music, food, and sports. Mm-hmm. You can go to any country and dive into that, and you'll be able to just be in the community with them as long as you embrace it. And I think it can transcend a lot of different cultures and barriers that are there. Yeah. It's a big unifier. Music is. I think most everybody can agree to that. I mean, you get discussions where people will, I hate this type of music or that type of music, but at the end of the day, I think you can have common ground, and especially if you see it performed live. And again, more so with the show that you have here, which is the behind the scenes, which is awesome.
Well, and the thing, you talk about being a unifier, and people go, well, I don't like that music. Well, I don't like bad music. In other words, I love great country records. Yeah. I love great rap records.
Yes.
I love great metal records.
Yeah.
Now, since metal, rap, and country aren't my first place to be as a listener or as a songwriting creator, the farther you get from incredibly great, the less interested I am.
Yeah.
But when you do really get to the great stuff, it's undeniably wonderful.
That's true.
Like in every style. So it does unify, in that way. But I mean, there's nothing like rhythm. We are heartbeats. There's nothing like rhythm to draw people together.
Yeah, it really is. And good point where you bring it up, because you get a different caliber of artists in here, all walks of life, looks and all that, and we do prejudge. We say, oh, I've seen a person like this before, or I know what this person is all about.
Yeah.
And I for one do like to pride myself in proving people wrong,
right?
And thinking that we can have conversations that you otherwise thought were out of the question when you first saw me,
right?
And then it's like, oh no, you got some depth to you got some understanding. And I think I just try to view stuff from an open mind on how I can learn from this person, because I think every person has something to teach you, whether it's they're going to actively teach you or they're going to subconsciously by like, well, I definitely don't want to do what that guy's doing or be how they are, and now I'm learning from that, just from the interaction, and having a moment to maybe see what they're, hey, let me peel back a couple layers, see if there is something under there. And sometimes there isn't in that moment, but we still learn. I still learn from it. I choose to try and see everything from that angle, and hopefully it makes me a better person for it.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. We all live our own paths, and we all grow up, and change, and hopefully for the better. But I think that too, when people are achievers, and they always did the right thing, and they worked hard, and they played by the rules.
Yeah.
They didn't meet or deal with a lot of people that were anti-establishment or didn't play by the rules, which basically is everyone who ever became a professional musician.
Yeah.
All of those people said, screw it, I'm not going to go to school. I'm going to join this band. We're just going to go on the road in a van.
Yeah.
And the next 10 years formed their life, where maybe then they became a little more aware of their responsibility to their own financial future, and maybe they got a job, or maybe they did whatever. But I'm just saying that they went a completely different path. And so you go with different people. You always look like your community looks. You can tell just by the Tempe crowd looks this way, the Scottsdale crowd looks this way. We do that.
Yeah.
We gravitate to what we like, and we take it on in a sense. So then when we have members who are watching people that they've never come across or they haven't hung out with,
Yeah.
I think that's the fun, is in showing them, look who these people are. Look what you missed.
It's a little fish tank.
And it's kind of like I have lived in this world of creative people / business people my whole life, because I got into music, but my father had a construction company. I worked for him, so I had got this business sense, and I ran my bands. I ran the business side of it. And then getting to the recording studio business early, I always had the business side, being involved with the studios, but the band and artist side, being involved with the bands. And I think that it helped me become, as a producer engineer, the guy who can sit in the boardroom with the record company guys and then go back and sit in the room with the band, where you can't put the two of them together.
Yeah.
You can't get anything done. It's like, look, I speak band, I speak board. Okay?
Yes, yeah.
So let me deal with this. And I think that's part of what works on the show, is that I'm a podcaster, so I can sit here and talk to the audience, and I can sit here and talk to the band, and I can manage the session and the time and the process all at the same time. So I feel energized when we do the show. I feel like everything I do is being utilized. Whereas in a regular recording session, I feel like I'm just sitting there spinning my thumbs, because all I'm doing is hitting the space bar and hitting the space bar.
Oh, man.
Waiting to be told, yeah, hit record again, we're ready.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the benefit of operating the way you are here, for sure. I'm in your 40 years, you must have gone through so much of just drudge, right?
Well, yeah, I think, I had a big fancy studio in Phoenix for 15 years. And when you have a public room, you have to take whoever calls you and books the space.
Yeah.
Versus when you don't have a public room, you only take work when somebody calls you and asks you if you want to do something. And you're like, I'll do it. Where are we going to do it? Are you going to find a studio you can do that? Or I'll do that at my house. It'll work in that space, So I think that's a much, happier place to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Otherwise you are a tool like the gear is. And so, which can be good, can be bad. I mean, the good thing about that is having a big fancy room is probably how I had the opportunity to do a few records that earned me platinum albums, because those big artists weren't looking for me, but they were looking for a room.
Gotcha.
And I had a big room that would work for them, so they came in and did their big record.
Yeah.
And I got to be the engineer because it was my space, and so then I get a platinum record because I worked on the project. The real key is that then they keep coming back to you for you, and then that's the good part. That's where the relationships are so important, because in this business, I would say everything that came to me was because somebody pulled me into the room.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh, I get that record. Well, I got this guy who's going to do it.
Yeah.
In fact, a buddy of mine is the drummer for Earth, Wind & Fire, has been for years. He was in my studio the day he got the gig, and they were just wrapping up, or after that tour they were on, they went into the studio to make a record, and they hadn't cut drums on a couple, so they asked him if he'd play drums on the last couple tunes as their new drummer. And he said, yeah, can my engineer cut the drums? And I'm thinking, John, they got a guy, I'm sure, But they kind of laughed at him and said no, because they got a guy. But the fact that I had tracked drums with him on a number of projects, and he loved it all the time. He loved the experience and the sound. He really wanted me to do it.
Yeah.
And so it's that kind of thing. I didn't land in that door, but I got pulled through so many other doors in that kind of a situation. It's all relationships.
It really is. That's what I experienced with my venture in the band I was in with Alex in Metropolis, man. That was, you create these relationships and they lead to so many other ventures as long as you're open to them.
Yeah.
You know, if you go in with your mind, well, like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And if it doesn't play out this way, then, you know, it was a lost cause, or I'm blind to everything else that could happen because I'm so focused on this one thing, on how I have it envisioned to play out. That's not how it works, man.
Yeah.
I think you're setting yourself up for failure if we look at everything like that. And I've just welcomed everything that's come along my way, because at the end of the day, we're here for the human experience, and I think that's what people are tuning in for. They're tuning in for the human experience of these artists that are performing, you know, these songs, and they're in bands. And how do those dynamics really work?
Yeah, and you mentioned that you have an interest in long form entertainment that does dive in a little bit. To me, I guess my experience is I don't hear a lot of people say that. So do you think that's something that is a more of an age thing, or is it, why are you, or people like you, whether it's your age or it's your business, why is long form entertainment the thing that really draws you in? Because everyone's ADD, it seems like we're being told shorter.
Yeah, everybody has that in them, where it's like you just shorter. I've just never gravitated towards that. Like when Vine was big, didn't really care for it. To me, details matter, and that, because I guess I'm very analytical and try to view everything with as much logic and reason that I can kind of grasp. And that way I can better maybe describe my own ideas to somebody else when they ask me. Like, I want to be prepared in that sense of like, well, why do you think this way? And I'm like, well, here's this and this. And then maybe they can pick my idea apart and be like, well, did you think about this? And then I can basically just add, it's like another layer of clay onto the sculpture, right? And it's like, oh no, I didn't.
You captured another shadow.
Yeah, I captured another shadow. It's totally, and I get goosebumps. I mean, look at this. Like I get goosebumps from witnessing greatness and passion, and that's just awe-inspiring to me. Just to hear somebody speak very passionately about their idea and putting it in motion. I mean, there's cokeheads that do that too, but
yeah, and you made an interesting point there too. You said they're passionate and talking about what they want to do, and then putting it into motion. Yeah. I can tell you that when I got into the local film community, that I heard repeatedly from so many people, they were shocked to actually finish the film, because they said everyone talks about making a movie, but they never do. Yeah. You do what you say, and I thought, yeah, I do. That's why I say it. When I say I'm going to do something, it's because I said it's because I want to do it.
Otto, that is my biggest thing is my word.
Yeah, and so the recording artist is something I said I'm going to do, and people are like, whatever, and then you do it, and they're like, wow, you're really doing it.
How did you do it? You remember when I said what I was going to do, and I just went and did it?
Yeah, that's what I do. What I say I'm going to do. That's why I said it. So I've never really related to the people who just talk a big dream. When I say I'm going to do something, it's because I'm going to do it.
Yeah, follow through is the big thing for me. Like if I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'm going to do something. Like I'm in my mind, I was like, well, that's what I have to do, because I've said it, I've spoke it out into the ether. And I welcome everything that comes with it. You know, the trouble of going through and following through something that you said you would. You know, when other things arise that might drag you elsewhere, you got to follow through, because at the end of the day, it's just our word. It's our word, and that's why I try to be selective about what I'm doing. But I try to say yes first. Yes, but let me get back to you. Yes, but also let me get back to you. Yeah. Yes, because I'm very as much for adventure and experience and all that, and I don't know, man, I haven't seen enough of the world yet, so I'm trying to get out there.
Cool. How much of the world have you seen?
None. I've been to Mexico, I've been to Chicago and St. Louis, and that's, and the West Coast.
That's cool.
That's about it. I want to do a heck of a lot more. Yeah. You got to come out and see me do some stand-up comedy.
You know what? I've seen some posts online. I absolutely do. I was listening to this one bit you were doing. I thought it was freaking hilarious. The bit about the guy who assumed you had a side gig, doing lawn work. I thought that's freaking hilarious. And then I assumed that came from some place of truth.
Yeah, it all does.
Yeah.
That's the thing about so stereotypes and with another word, but just assumptions. I mean, all the generalizations and stereotypes, they exist for a reason.
Yeah.
But you're not supposed to, because again, I like to prove stuff wrong.
Right.
And labels, but they exist for a reason, and that's because it's very easy for us to just be like, oh, that person, okay, I just labeled them, I'm good.
Let's talk about stand-up comedy. I always thought I would try that. I always thought I'd be a comic. But
Come out.
Maybe. But what's funny is entertaining and being funny was something I've always loved doing. I think we do a lot of that on the show. I'm always having a good time. I'm always laughing. We're always just entertaining and laughing at anything that's funny. When you're a stand-up comic and you're on that stage and you don't have a guitar in front of you, you don't have 3 minutes where you're safe because you're playing a song and
you're
they
hiding
can't do
behind
much.
the instrument.
Right.
Yeah.
It's extremely vulnerable. I've always thought that it's got to be one of the most difficult things to, number one, do well and consistently, or feel you did well and feel you get that response that works, and to get people motivated. Like, for example, when I go to a show, there's a lot of things you can do with your time. Yes. And if you choose to go see a comedy show, you're wondering when you get there, I wonder if these guys are really going to be funny, right?
Exactly.
And if they aren't, you've wasted your time. And so the nice thing about a comic is that jokes aren't 4 minutes long. I don't have to wait 20 minutes to find out this band's really bad. I'm going to give you 3 jokes.
Yeah.
And know I'm out of here before I wasted my night. So you get one, and if I don't laugh, I'm not worried yet. And you give me another one, and I don't laugh. Like, oh no, is this guy not funny?
Yeah.
Should we leave now, honey? You know. And then the third, you got about till the third joke to get him to loosen up a little. I mean, do you find that that's true? That if you don't have him in that first 90 seconds to 2 minutes, that you just can't get them to come with you?
So I'm equating hitting open mic spots a lot like playing golf. You play golf?
I have played golf.
So you can play the same course every day of the week and play completely, have 7 different scores each day. And that's what I equate to these open mic spots. Also where they're held. So you play a show, right? And they want you as just background ambient music. You can't go there and perform your set, right? Then you have actual venues where you go and they're there for a rock show. So you're going to rock out and you're going to kick them in the face. So there's the bars where people are drinking, and there's comedy over here. Then there's the venues that open up their during the week, when they don't have big shows booked, that like, hey, we're here for some jokes and there's some drinks. So you get this weird dynamic of drunk people not really here to hear jokes, but you better make them laugh.
Right.
Versus people there, I'm here for a show. Yeah, I'm willing to laugh. I want to laugh. Entertain me. You know. So they operate completely differently. And what I'm trying to get to is you need to kill on the worst stages first. You need to get as many laughs as you can, because if it's hitting there, then it's just going to hit that much harder in front of what we were saying, actual crowd, somebody that's there to witness comedy.
Right.
It's definitely weird when you're on stage and you're in my head, okay, I'm gonna go up with this bit, and then your mouth opens and it's not what you meant to say. And even as you say, it's like, why are you my mind's like, why are you saying it that way? That's not how you wrote it. And then it's, before you know it, it's gone and it's already out there and you're trying to pick up the pieces.
Trying to save it or pick it up.
It is the craziest thing. Like, I will go up there and be like, these are my 3 pieces I'm gonna touch on, and I will maybe hit one, because you get up there and someone distracts you. And I mean, I posted a video recently where, like, the stage we have is not really a stage. It's this patio in an L shape, and the L shape is the wrong way. So like, there's people here and there's people here, and then they're closing out a tab literally right behind me, and everybody's inside watching a pillow fight league and taking bets. And there's comics. So the thing about an open mic is that 90% of the people in the audience aren't even listening to you. They're just waiting for their turn to go up on stage. They're critiquing you. So just imagine like you playing an open mic and you're doing a solo and everybody is just like this.
Yeah.
Just analyzing your solo instead of taking in the music and the moment and enjoying it.
Right.
You can't. They're analyzing everything. So it's definitely been rough. It's character building on another level.
Yeah.
But the scariest thing to me, Otto, is singing, because I do not have a singing voice. And I don't know what you would say to somebody that says they don't have a singing voice, but I don't. And so the scariest thing to me is actually singing. I can hide behind an instrument for a little bit. I can go up there and try to be a funny guy. But singing is the ultimate vulnerability to me.
Yeah, well, the more you do anything, the better you get at it. Singing, you can do with any voice, but it's like everything else that takes some exercise. You got to work it out. When you said that, it reminded me of this show that we're putting together that I'm really, really thrilled about. And it's a guy in town who has a show called Live from Laurel Canyon, and they play the MIM, and they play all over the country in the performance arts centers. And that's just a show about all the songs written by songwriters that lived in Laurel Canyon back in the 60s and 70s. And all these famous cats did, and they worked with each other. Yeah. And so he has a second version of the show called The Music of James and Joni, Live from Laurel Canyon Presents. And it's only James Taylor and Joni Mitchell. Yeah. Well, then he came up with this idea to do a third show called Live from Laurel Canyon Presents The Lost Weekend. And that's a phrase coined by about John Lennon's 18 months in L.A. when Yoko kicked him out of the house in New York. And he hung out there and ended up producing a record with Harry Nilsson, who's a great singer-songwriter. And so he wanted to really focus on the music of John Lennon and Harry Nilsson. And then he thought to himself, but I'm not going to sing that stuff. And Otto has a Lennon tribute show, and he can probably sing the Nilsson stuff. So he asked me, would you like to sing in this show I want to put together? So I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And I knew Harry's stuff, but not intimately. Yeah. So I've been studying it and learning it. And oh my God, this cat could sing. And so to sing the songs, I'm learning to do things with my voice I've never done. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I can't believe I made that sound. Can I do that every time though? No. Can I get to a place where I feel comfortable standing on stage to represent this work to that level? Yeah. It's like, that's going to be a big lift, but it's exciting trying to get there and do it. The music is so incredible. And the requirement of me as a singer is more than anything's ever been required of me. The dynamic, everything about the way this man performed his voice is phenomenal. So I'm really excited about that.
That's exciting, man. You're testing yourself,
It's going to be a good one. Because when I get it right, people are just going to die. I mean, they're going to cry. They're going to call me the greatest singer that ever lived. And it's not me. He was so good, and he wrote such a powerfully cool stuff. And then to switch into the Lennon voice, which is my natural thing that everyone can't believe sounds just like the guy, and to switch back and forth, I'm impressed with it. Yeah. And so I know, and so I just know people are just going to be shook when we do this show, and I do it well. So I'm really excited about doing it.
What was the when does that come out? Do we know?
As soon as we get it done. For example, the phase we're in is still the way the show works with Live from Laurel Canyon brand is every song, they discuss the song a bit before they play it, where it came from, who wrote it, how it happened, why it was important for this, show, and then the band plays the song. So they kind of set up every one. So both Brian and I have been doing some research on this stuff because there's not a lot out there for us to get information. So we've been writing the story that needs to be to present the songs and trying to research it through other sources. And I've got a few more people we're trying to reach out to. So once we finalize, how we want to present each song, because some songs we would like to play, we can't figure out how to present it. So it's just not going to be in the show. So it's almost still determining exactly which tunes are going to be in the show. Yeah. Then we'll have a rehearsal. We're hoping to do a show before the end of the year in town and film it so that we have something to then pitch to the performing arts centers, around the country. And hopefully next spring and summer we'll start taking this thing out. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be so much fun. I will be having the time of my life if we do that show.
Yeah, you would easily. I mean, that covers most of your bases there.
Yeah, and it's like I don't have to play. I just have to sing my ass off really hard on these really, really cool songs with an incredible band in venues where people come to listen, not in bars where you're the background music. It's a very different experience.
It's an appreciation. It's different. I mean, the venue is always going to be hands down the biggest dictator on how the event is received and in general for both the artists and the audience members. I did want to ask you about maybe a moment in the studio where you feel like what was happening in that room kind of transcended what the musicians were, what you were, and you guys just made some magic happen. And, and we're just like, what the hell just happened? Yeah,
there's a lot of those, you know.
Can you speak on like a few that maybe stick out?
Yeah, one, there's a saxophonist, you know, musician, songwriter, Eddie Menenfield, Eddie M. And I've worked with Eddie a bunch of records, and I've done 3 of his solo albums as an engineer. And he's out with Sheila E. in her regular band all the time. And they met way back in the Prince days. Eddie's first tour was Purple Rain with Prince. He was 18, you know. Damn. And played on lots of smooth jazz records with Wayman Tisdale and a bunch of people. That's where I met him on the first record I did with Wayman Tisdale for Motown. And so anyway, Eddie and I are great friends. And while I was working on one of his records, we were tracking in San Francisco, and we were coming back to Phoenix. We were going to be mixing back here. And so we stopped by the studio to drop the tapes off back when we recorded on reels tape. And we were just going to leave them there and go home. And then we were going to come in and, you know, work the next day. Well, he had this melody idea on one song that he hadn't recorded yet, and he wanted to record it before he forgot it.
So the song is kind of worked in, but the melody
multi-tracks recorded, the band's recorded, but he hadn't done his solo main line. He's like the lead singer through saxophone.
Gotcha.
And so we get to the studio, and I am deathly sick. I caught a cold like the day before or something, and I'm like really feeling bad. Yeah. And I'm like, no, Eddie, no, we're not going to do that. He's like, let me just, no, I can't. I got to get home, get to bed. He's like, no, just for a second. Well, I'll only do one pass. I'm like, because it's him, my friend. And, you know, I'm like, okay, fine, we'll do it. I'm not even taking my coat off, right? Put the reel on, put the mic up, put him in there. All right, go. You know, and he played, and it was so incredible that just in the first 3 minutes, I felt a little better. And he was like, okay, man, thanks. I appreciate that. I said, no, it's okay. Hold on. Just take it again. I rolled back. I took my coat off. I sat down, and we spent a little time, you know, working on it, getting kind of what he wanted to get. And by the time we got done, maybe only a half hour or so, 40 minutes, I was like, man, I'm not sick anymore. I said, you healed me. Yeah. And I'm being, I mean, it sounds kind of corny, but I'm being completely honest that was an experience I had where music healed me. I felt fine afterwards. I was not sick. I didn't have my cold anymore. Yeah. And I didn't have to go home. I was fine. The next day it was over. Whatever was going on in me.
Whatever you were fighting off.
Was over. After 30 minutes of him playing this beautiful, beautiful piece of music that he was working on. So, I mean, that was a crazy experience. But then another fun one I'd just like to share is that Nils Lofgren is a guitarist. Mm-hmm. Plays with Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band, does his own solo stuff, plays with Neil Young. Very, very, you know, successful professional career, plays with Ringo Starr's All-Star Band. Nils is probably one of the most proficient technicians I've ever seen in my life. The guy can just do anything on guitar. And I was lucky enough to be working with him at the time at my studio in Phoenix, and we were doing a new album of his called Breakaway Angel. And so we were going to put a band together, and he was living here, so he's thinking maybe local guys. But I had been doing some work with a session drummer out of L.A. called Michael Botts, who is the drummer in a band called Bread, which your parents probably remember. Michael was also a session player. He's passed since. Great guy, great player. But I had worked with him on a couple of projects, and I said, hey, would you like to do this record with Nils? And he had worked with him on one other thing. So I was like, yeah, I'd love to. Great. And he said, I thought, well, you know, what if we get Lee Sklar to play bass? Lee's a famous session guy. He's always on tour with Phil Collins and James Taylor and all these guys. He's the one with the long white beard. You see him on all the videos and all the pictures. Yeah. Just famous guy. And him and Mike played a lot of sessions together. So... and I said to Nils, I said, you know, I think I could probably reach out to Lee Sklar if you'd like to have him on the record. What do you think? And Nils is like, oh, my God, I've never met him. I'd love to have him on the record. So we got, long story short, we got Lee on the record. So now we have Mike Botts, we have Lee Sklar, and we have Christine Vivona on harp. She lived in Tucson at the time, and Nils on guitar. And now for 3 days, they're only going to do, I think it was 5 songs, but... yeah, 5 songs, but Nils booked like 3 solid days just to do them over and over and over. He wanted to just everybody play at the same time and nail it, you know. Whoa. And I felt like I should be paying them.
No way.
To sit in the room. Because, I mean, once we were set up and mic'd and going, it sounded so incredible. And I'm hitting the space bar, our number 3 button to record in Pro Tools and the space bar to stop and going again. All I did was play and record for 3 days without moving the mic or changing anything because they were just tracking the tracks. And that talk about transcendent, I felt like I was at an 8-hour concert, even though the music wasn't changing. I know we're doing the same song, we're doing another version of it, we're going to move on to this other song, we're going to come back. Every performance was always immaculate because of the guys involved.
The musicianship.
Yeah. So when that's happening, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know?
When it doesn't feel like work, you know, at the end of the day.
When the music is so good, that and the technicians, the artists are so good that we're not talking about anything but the music.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the microphone or you're out of tune or I hear a buzz or how come you can't play in time. We're not fixing anything.
Yeah.
We're just trying to figure out, was that more magnificent than the last one? How do we measure that? Sit back and listen again. I can't tell. They're both so great. Can we listen again?
It's like being in the kitchen and cooking up the same recipe, and then you're like, is that bite better than the last? Like, I don't know. Let's try it again. And it's like you can't.
Yeah. So that was a fun session. And then just another one would be, well, there's just so many. Working with Sam Moore and working with Billy Preston, and when guys are that good, it always just kind of takes your breath away.
Yeah.
You're in awe of what they do. Same thing with DMX. I mean, I wasn't a big DMX fan, but he got on a mic and I was like, holy shit, this guy's for real.
Yeah.
I mean, he left nothing in the tank.
Really?
And was just so impressive. So it's, and it wasn't the kind of stuff I listened to, but boy, I became a fan right away.
Yeah. I think you can do that once you get acquainted with the actual person behind the name, behind the not the facade, but just the aura of everything you've heard, right? And it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, your mind is in the right place when it comes to your art.
Yeah,
And
when you hear a record, you don't know if they spent 2 months on it or 2 minutes. And I think that when you hear somebody get on the mic and they sound 100% like their record, you're like, oh. You really do this. This is really you.
Yeah, authenticity.
Yeah, it's not put together with a lot of effort and post-production work.
Yeah, you can capture it in the moment. It's awesome. What about moments where you just had to walk out?
Yeah, I've had a few of those too. That's funny.
Well, we won't name any names, but
no, I have had those. And really, it comes down to, in a recording session, if you're the producer or you're the engineer. The producer is responsible. They're the ones who's been brought on to do the project. The engineer is brought on to run the gear. So if someone's disrespecting you as an engineer or causing you such grief that you wish you were dead and you're just the engineer, that's very different. They can get another engineer. You can get in or out of the picture one way or another.
Yep.
But the producer has got to finish the gig, right?
Gotcha.
I had a producer client who came in to do a gig he had to do with a particular artist who, after about 3 or 4 hours, I wanted to go over there and beat him up. I was just this guy was just so bad, not talent-wise, personally, the way he was and the way he was being, I wanted to throw him out of the room. Just could not stand it. And I turned to my producer, who was my client, and I said to him, do you have to do this record? Because I don't have to do this. But if you have to do this, I'll do it with you.
Yeah.
And he said, I have to do this. I said, okay, then we'll finish this. But I'm never going to work with this guy again. And I never did. And this guy has hounded me for 20 years, changed his name, moved to different towns, still tries to get me to do things for him.
Yeah.
It's like,
dude, I can't. That one time was enough.
I'm not working with you. So it's, those things happen, but that's more of a people thing than a process thing. But that's, you're making music. So one of the odd things about music is that, like you said, it transcends. You'll find people in a room that maybe would never hang out together, who maybe wouldn't even get along, but all of a sudden that beat starts bumping and everyone's like, yeah, oh my God, this is amazing. And they're high-fiving and hugging over this track and they walk out and they wouldn't even say hello outside. I mean, it's like music brings people together in a way that it's undeniable. You rise above those things and you both are kind of honoring the music in that space. Yeah. So it's fascinating to see that happen.
Yeah, it really does. What is I just lost the question. Oh, no. What is a project that you worked on that you felt really proud of?
Lots, lots of them. I guess the real key is when, to think of something like that you're proud of is that you did something. In other words, when I talk about that Nils Lofgren record, I'm proud of the record because it sounds wonderful. But to be honest, I feel like I didn't do anything. I set up microphones, I set tones and levels, and they did it. And then on the other hand, when you're producing a record, like one of the records I've done of my own music, where I play every instrument, except maybe I hire a drummer, or because I don't do drums, and or hire somebody else to play a particular instrument. But then I'm actually doing everything. I'm writing, recording, and and then you sit back and go, wow, that's really cool. So I think from a pride point of view, I feel proud of those projects.
I guess that was my question, where you had to really dig deep in that, and like maybe you were unsure, and then on the other side of it, you were just like, man, okay, heck yeah, this is out there now, and I feel good about it.
Yeah, I think probably my records more than anything else, because for everyone else, you're trying to do something for them. You're trying to take
their vision.
Yeah, I've never tried to take an artist and put them in a box. Oh, here's what you should sound like. And a lot of producers have their sound, and you're going to get their sound. I've never been that way. I'm more like, what's right about you and what's wrong about you? From my point of view, what do we need to improve, replace, edit, and what do we want to magnify? What's the beautiful part? I think photographers do that with makeup and lights.
That's true.
You and me, big nose. Okay, let's get the lights not from the side, or the shadow's going to go all the way across your face. So they have a way of making you the prettiest you've ever been, and then they take a picture. And you go, oh my gosh, that's me. Look, it's like, well, not really. That's you with 2 hours of makeup and lighting.
Yeah.
And that's what the record is. You want the record to be the prettiest, most best foot forward version of their emotional expression of that stuff that they created. So I tend to try to find that in them and pull that out and magnify that. And then I do around it what needs to be done around it to present it well. So in the end, it's always going to be something like, I don't find pride in it. I hope they feel proud of it.
Yeah.
So I guess getting back to that, the place where I felt pride is in from the ground up, writing something, performing something, and putting it out and going, wow, it's like I did that. I don't feel like I did that when it's someone else's record, even though I did that. It takes, I guess I have to do it all to feel like I did it.
Yeah. You got to take full on ownership at that point for your piece. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That does make
but
sense.
It's so much fun making records and doing television and video editing. I love that. Performing, I love performing. I mean, if I did any one of these things and only one of them, I'd lose my mind because I would be unhappy if I just sang on stage all the time.
Yeah.
I think what makes it special is I don't do it every day.
That's true.
I love making records with people because I don't have to do it every day.
Yeah, it stays fresh.
I'd love selling guitars in Guitar Center if I didn't have to do it every day.
Sure.
Great. Get to meet some people again. Oh, look, these cool guitars. You know? Anything you do all the time, it would completely wear me out. I can't. I'm not that way.
Yeah. No, it's the dullness of just routine, I guess, at that point. And I mean, there's routine where you can keep it varied enough, which you do. You have a routine, but it's varied enough to keep you. So, besides music, what's another big passion of yours? Or just a hobby or something that you do to like?
I'd love to play tennis. Tennis is a lot of fun. And everyone's telling me pickleball. And
it's I was about to say, how do we feel about pickleball?
I don't want to like it. I haven't tried it yet. And it's like golf. It's like I'm not good enough at tennis yet to start playing pickleball because I know that I'll probably never go back to tennis because it looks like it's a lot easier and it's more fun.
It is, yeah.
But tennis, I was just getting good. It's so hot out, it's hard to play. So you get these big spanses where you can't really play out much. But when you start getting good at it, it's like, holy cow, it's fun. And so now I never could watch tennis on TV before I played it.
Yes.
Now I can watch it and go, wow, that's
amazing. And you appreciate it more.
Yeah.
That's the insight, man.
That's a fun one.
That's the insight of just getting into something that then you get an appreciation because, okay, now I understand these rules, the parameters, I think rules exist there to keep, the game more in line and to make it more of a game. You have to work within this realm to be good instead of like the analogy of like baseball, like a home run. Why does a home run exist? Shouldn't your aim, and I got this idea from playing pickleball where it's like I would hit it outside of the court, and I'm just like, what the hell? Well, why is a home run a thing then? You hit it outside of the baseball field, and it's a 1 point. Like, that was just some meathead that couldn't place the ball good enough. So he's like, I'm just gonna hit the fuck out of it, and now it's 1 point.
That's funny.
And I think that rules exist so you can hyper zone in on being great in this particular moment.
Have you ever played baseball in a sandlot that didn't have a back fence?
Right.
So there's your home run.
There it
you
is.
hit it over everybody's head.
Now you earned it.
And by the time they get to the ball, you've already scored.
Yeah.
So I think then the concept was, well, so pretty much if you go this far, that's far enough. So let's just put a wall, and so it stops it.
That's a good point.
Because I remember chasing a ball, and you turn around, the guy's already around there. You're still going for the ball, and you can't even throw it back that far. You got to run it back. Playing in open sandlots when we were kids, but it's fun.
That's very true. I mean, that's probably a good point where they were like, okay, by this point, if he hits it out of here, well, then he would have ran across. So now it's a home run. That makes sense. See, this is what I'm talking about. That's another angle there. I love that. So tennis. So is that something that you and the missus do?
Yeah, we have a couple friends here in town that we play with too, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
I got a tennis racket. Hit me up.
I'd love to.
Yeah, I love sports just in general. Yeah, anything physical with the ball.
I was a huge basketball player, still a huge basketball fan.
Yeah.
And I used to always say, I never went to a gym. I hated to exercise, and I always said, I'll get my exercise by accident. I want to play.
Yeah, that's where I was at.
Yeah, I'll run, I'll swim, I'll play baseball, I'll play basketball, I'll play whatever you want to play, but I will not go to the gym.
Yeah.
And get on a treadmill or lift weights.
My football coach hated me because football season. Anytime they would strike up a volleyball game out there, I would just run out and play the volleyball game instead of weightlifting.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're in PE right now, not weightlifting, coach. So I'm gonna play my volleyballs. I love sports.
I mean, I get muscle building, and that's important, especially in something like football. But when it comes to just an exercise regimen, I have a hard time having an interest in just doing some sort of repetitive activity that doesn't have a point. I think my mind needs to be engaged in another way.
Yeah.
And the concept of the combat of sport, really, where the competition is intellectually it's engaging. You're strategizing.
It is tons of strategy.
You're pushing. You're fighting. You're trying. That's what I get engaged by.
Yeah. No, there's lots of that. I mean, people will look at sports and just be like, well, it's just a bunch of brutes and whatnot. It's like, no, there's strategy, which is why the rules exist. Because rules exist because people were exploiting something that maybe wasn't necessarily cheating, but hey, that's taken away from the game.
One of my buddies in tennis, he always wants to just say, let's just hit it back and forth. Don't worry about whether it's in or out of bounds. I just want to run around. And I'm like, I don't want to just run around. I want to try and win.
Yeah.
I want to put it, So it's like, no, let's play with the rules. No, let's just hit the ball. I don't want to just hit the ball. I can just go anywhere and just hit a ball.
Exactly.
Or on a freaking tennis court. Let's play tennis.
Yeah, let's get some nice, honest, competitive.
Yeah, so it's interesting that people have different perspectives on that, But and I was always one. Maybe it comes from growing up, trying, being the good kid you're supposed to be. But I always liked the rules, and because I always felt like you can't measure win or loss without the rule. You need the rules. And if you're going to cheat, well, then I don't care. I don't want to play. I could never cheat because that wouldn't be a win.
Yeah.
I wanted to win. I needed to know the rules in order to win.
Yeah.
What are the rules? How does this game work?
Yep.
So I was always into playing within the rules, but playing hard,
Yes. Yeah, I'm the same in that sense. Yeah. I had a lot of high regard for the authority of it. Like this is where it's at.
Yeah, it's the outline of the whole.
Yeah,
there's a purpose for it.
Exactly, and you find and it leads to creativity. That's what people would think. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, cheating is a form of creativity. You're finding a way to be creative, and that's literally the only reason rules exist is because somebody was exploiting it. So that's why there's rules. It's like, okay, well, that's taken away from the spirit of the game. So let's create a rule to, negate that.
Right.
It's all there. It's all strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, is it all a form of gamesmanship, of war, is all these sports are, like the Olympics?
Competition is, I think on a certain level. I mean, I don't know about version of war, but war is a competitive event as well, as destructive as it is.
Yeah.
But no, I think that we like to achieve, and achieving is another level of problem solving. When you have a problem, you solve it. You achieved a solution that required some sort of effort. And if two people are trying to solve the same problem, then you're competing for gaining a solution. And if you get a solution, you might share the solution. So you're the one who gets the respect for finding the solution. So essentially you win the game of solving the problem. So, I mean, those things in life are all kind of the same. So I think physical competition and winning and losing are really important parts of learning the value of struggle and the value of the journey. The journey isn't just to ride and watch everybody else. It's to participate.
Yeah, you got to participate.
Yeah. And so winning and losing is a part of a struggle, and a struggle, when you get back to making records, the struggle is what it's all about. If you'll watch that on the show a lot when I have a singer who's just great. It's like, well, what's the point of you singing something effortlessly? That doesn't inspire me. It needs to sound like it's hard for you. It needs to sound like it matters to you. Yeah. So sometimes you change the key, so it's harder for them to sing. So that there's a little bit of this sometimes. Yeah. Because all of a sudden, now it sounds like this is important to you. I'm hearing some effort being put into this. Like, you have to tell me this.
And there's growth at that point.
Yeah. And so, you want the struggle. The struggle tells what the story was, why the story mattered. So that's part of what has to be expressed in my mind a lot of times in songs. You're looking for that, even from the musician. It's like, no, don't play it quite that sweet. Make it sound like it was harder to do. Here, I'm going to shake you while you play the solo so you can't quite make it perfect. You know?
So you can breathe it, make it living instead of just kind of like almost just going through the motions.
Yeah.
Did I mention to you the misogi, the Japanese thing?
I think before, while we were setting up equipment, you did.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like not what you're pushing for, but you're pushing. You push for that on the show to test them so they can feel, bro. I mean, I guess let me go to this. So I hiked Papago Mountains not too long ago, and I went off trail. And I saw like Gila monsters. I'm kind of through the brush. I'm like, I shouldn't be here, but I'm enjoying this right now. I see, which I later found out was a hive of bees, and one came out and bumped me in the head. And that's like their defense that says, hey, we know you're here. We don't want you here. Go on. And I didn't know what was coming after that. I just know one attacked me. I'm out of here. Because I was like, it's either my adrenaline, my endorphins, or whatever is coming off of me that made me seem like a threat. And now I don't know what's going to happen with these bees. So I ran as fast as I could, and I'm like trying to get down. And I ran into another section of the hive, and I'm like, have they been communicating? Like, I don't know. And I had to like drop like 8 feet down because I'm off trail. I'm in the Papago Mountains near the zoo, the Phoenix Zoo. And afterwards, I was like, man, I feel alive. Because I had a brush with, who knows? I mean, if I would have been stung by all of those, who knows what kind of, effects it has. But I felt alive in that moment, that little danger. And so I think when you get pushed out of your comfort zone and you get pushed to do something that you thought was out of your wheelhouse and what you try to do here with your guests, I think it brings what you're working on to life a little bit more. And it feels, there's more feeling to it at that point.
Yeah, I think the process of making a record should always, in part, be a process of discovery. Yeah. A lot of people map it all out and think they have it figured out when they get there. Yeah. And then they're just executing a grocery list of items to achieve, and they're done. And you'll hear an artist like that say, when you ask them, how's that new record you made? They go, well, I think it's pretty good. I think we got what we were aiming for. And I'm like, why were you aiming for anything? I don't understand.
Oh, damn.
That's when somebody makes a record they're really proud of. A record you want to listen to is when in the interview they're asked, what do you think of the new record you put out? And they're like, oh, you're going to love it. It's like, well, I love it. It's a great record. They didn't aim at something. They went inside to find something, and they found something, and they brought it out, and they're like, holy cow, look at this. That's the incredible stuff you want to hear.
Okay. One thing I've noticed from everything I've done is recently is really stepping out, like podcasting. I had no business podcasting. Playing bass on stage. I had no business playing on stage the way I was. And now stand up. And then all the physical activities, the hiking I'm doing. And people are just like, dude, you're just going after it. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm no good. And there's still a ton of admiration in there. I'm like, oh, people love to see people go for it and it's out of your wheelhouse, and you might be drowning a little bit, but you're continuing and you're going forward and you're going after it, and you're failing publicly. Like I'm posting all my stuff, man. I'm like,
You said, and I have no business doing this. I did this. I have no business doing that. You said that. You used those words. And I want to say that nobody has any business doing anything the first time. If you want to say, if you're bad, you don't have any business doing it.
Yeah.
The first podcast you do will be bad.
Yeah.
The next one will be better. The first live show you do will be bad. The next one will be better. The first time you do anything, it's going to hopefully be a lot worse than as you continue to do it, right?
Yeah.
So you might always feel like you have no business being there, but the truth is the only thing you can do is be there the first time. So you're never going to feel like you belong when you start, because you don't.
Because you don't.
But you will if you start.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And in fact, I had this band that was going to come on the show, young kids, and they canceled at the last minute because they said, "Well, we don't think we're really ready for Otto to work with us. We're going to spend the summer rehearsing and then we'll come."
Yeah.
And that word got to me through the person that was communicating with the band, so I never had a chance to speak with the band. And I would have told them, I said, "Look, guys, people don't come to me because they're ready. They come to me to get ready. They come and I take them and lift them up. I show them, oh, do this, do that. I polish it off. No one's ready. Because I don't care what you do, I can tell where we can go from there. If you're really, really great, then the level of nuance that we're going to be discussing is really small and it's minor, but there'll be improvements that I can imagine that can be done. And if you're a beginner, it's like, okay, let's get you playing on time, and quit playing all those notes. Let's just play whole notes, you can't play well enough to do all the stuff you think you're playing, and I can make the record sound better. I can make them better. But these guys they didn't understand. They felt like they needed to be ready. But when you're young too, they were told by everyone at their school that they were the best band ever, And I think they lived in they were 18, 19, 20.
Bubble.
They lived in a little bubble where they were king of the hill. Everyone told them they were, and they were afraid they were going to find out they weren't. And I don't think they were prepared to face their ego in the mirror.
Oh, that's the one.
Because when you're young still, it's like, I don't want him to tell me that I'm not great.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone, especially on TV. So I'm just going to stay home. Then I'm still great. No one's ever told me I'm not great.
Yeah, exactly right. And then you're living in that facade in a sense.
Which that's fine. It's in the womb. It's kind of like you got to get nurtured and get your strength up, but then you got to step out. And if you're going to do something for real, you have to be able to take the criticism and get better. That's how you get better.
Yeah. Put your ego in check in that sense. Man, those are some very kind words from you, Otto.
Cool.
Yeah, it's been awesome, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Dude.
So now we got to play tennis, and I have to do stand-up with you.
Yes, you do.
So maybe we'll work out a tennis routine.
Yeah, let's do it.
That'd be fun.
We'll hit the jokes back and forth. Is that what you're saying?
There you go. Maybe. We'll be on the stage at the same time.
Who's on first? Well, let's do our best to plug in your show right now so everybody knows, no question about it, right here and now, how to best consume your show and to support everything you have going on with it.
The biggest thing is to continue to provide these independent artists with free studio time and recorded masters, and then get featured on TV. And as this thing grows, more and more eyeballs will come to all of these guys. The best way to do that is to go to therecordingartist.com, and you can either purchase a lifetime membership, which is a big support. There's a couple different versions. One comes with T-shirts. One comes with your picture and name on the website, as a supporter. Or you can subscribe by the month. There's a monthly fee. You can get a discount for 6 months. You get a discount for an annual membership. But come to the website, therecordingartist.com. Check out a lot of the free content and subscribe. There's a ton of content to watch that you can watch when you subscribe. Mm-hmm. It's a constantly growing catalog. And right now we're doing another free band live webcast every month. And after we get these next 10 episodes cut for TV, we'll probably move back to every week.
Beautiful. And it's going to be available on Amazon Prime and Roku.
Yep. Right now, season 1 is on Amazon Prime. And if you have Roku TV, just download the Recording Artist channel. It's a free channel. And if you can't find that on Roku, then you haven't updated your software. It's a weird thing about Roku. You have to update it every once in a while, and it loads all the new channels into the program.
Makes sense.
But if you've uploaded it or updated it recently, just search The Recording Artist. You'll see our logo. Download the channel. It's free. A lot of the content there will be free, and you can actually watch the live sessions when they happen on your Roku channel on your TV.
That's badass. That's
It's
very
pretty cool.
very convenient, guys. Lots of ways to
Yeah,
to
it's
watch.
very, very cool.
And on Instagram, it's the recording artist.
Yep. TheRecordingArtist.com. The word dot.
D-O-T.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also myself, I'm on Instagram at Otto Dagnolo, spelled the way my name is spelled.
You finally said it, Dagnolo.
Dagnolo. Yeah. Dagnolo. And then also, let's see, on Facebook, everything's there too. So kind of all over.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, seriously, thanks. When we mentioned how time
you, brother.
is the most valuable, so I
Yeah.
appreciate you setting aside some time.
I was
and,
excited when you invited me.
oh, dude, making a girl blush. All right, buddy. I love you, man.
You too.
Guys, stay tuned for the next episode, and please, please, please follow Otto and support him. Thank you.
Now there's an original observer. But this guy's an idiot. I mean, he's a moron.